Welcome back everybody, Matt the Man here. Hope you're doing well today. If a special occasion, today we are talking about Gladiator 2. Now why is this a special occasion? Well, number one, this is a long-awaited sequel. Even though technically the original never asked for a sequel, but it is considered now a long-awaited sequel. Over 24 years, almost 25. Next May of 2025, will be the 25th anniversary of Gladiator, of the original Gladiator. This is also special because Gladiator is one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie of all time. I sometimes go back between Gladiator at number one or Lord of the Rings at number one. I saw both of these movies, both of them, in 2001. So, it was kind of like the shaping of me becoming a filmmaker, wanting to get into film. Russell Crowe is my favorite actor in Hollywood. He's been that ever since I saw Gladiator. Even before Gladiator, I didn't even know the name Russell Crowe. Gladiator was also the second DVD I ever bought in my life, and it is still the same DVD I bought in 2001. And it has always been my favorite movie. This is also the movie that inspired my second football film that I made in high school. You watch that, my second highlight film, football related, football one, and you see the Gladiator inspiration, the music, just the way I shot that film and put it together. Definitely inspired by Gladiator. So, going into Gladiator 2, when Gladiator 1 is not even just by me, by most people, one of the greatest movies ever made, and easily one of the best movies of the last 25 years. I mean, it's like back in the day when they said, oh, we're going to make a sequel to The Godfather to The Godfather. And you're like, huh? No. You can't make a sequel to The Godfather. It can't be done. And it was better. To some people. I don't know, I still go back and forth between The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. But you can at least say, when they said we're going to make The Godfather Part 3, that's when everyone was like, oh, no. And that is where I equate Gladiator 2. It's not The Godfather Part 2. It's more like The Godfather Part 3. The Godfather Part 3, not a bad movie, good movie, but it doesn't reach the height of The Godfather Part 2. Gladiator 2 does not reach the height of Gladiator 1. And that's how I feel about Gladiator 2. Was I entertained? Was I entertained? Well, one thing I will say to you now, you will be entertained during this review. So here we go. Positives. I think this one, even though this movie does have some familiar themes of the original, this is a logical story. I was watching this movie going, out of all the storylines that they've been trying to figure out for Gladiator 2 ever since the original movie came out. Once again, they've been trying to make a Gladiator sequel for the past 24 years. There have been so many different scripts written. One that even had Maximus coming back from the dead. No joke. And watching this movie, I was going, there's really no other storyline that you could possibly have done. Now there's a character I wish they did something with better than what they do with the character, but as the overall story of the movie and the logical direction it has to go after the original Gladiator, it makes a lot of sense. Pedro Pascal, I'm not a huge fan of Pedro Pascal. I think a lot of it is just he's thrown in our faces so much lately between The Mandalorian, The Last of Us, he's going to be in Fantastic Four, now this movie, and he's been in other things also, Game of Thrones. Then I'm like, okay, we've seen a lot of Pedro, and I'm starting to just see the actor rather than the character. So I was a little bit hesitant when they were like, oh yeah, Pedro Pascal is going to be in Gladiator 2. I'm like, I feel like Achilles, Brad Pitt's Achilles in Troy. Is there no one else? Is there no one else? But actually, what I actually really liked about Pedro Pascal here is the character they wrote for him. I will not get into spoilers here, but let me just say, the character they wrote for Pedro Pascal should have been another character in the movie. The logical, when I talk about logical storylines, there's also a part in this movie where logic for a certain character should have been the direction. But instead, they gave it to Pedro Pascal's character. I really was surprised by his character, shocked at some of the reveals of his character, because the trailer sets it up in one way, but when you actually watch the movie, it's very different. Denzel. My name. When they said we're going to have Denzel in Gladiator 2, I thought, this dude can do anything he wants. Why do a Gladiator film? Especially if the movie ends up sucking. That's going to be like tainting your career a little bit. Because the profile of Gladiator is so high. But man, Denzel is so entertaining in this movie. I could have just watched a 2-hour movie of just him. His character is a little bit like Proximo in the original, played by Oliver Reed. But what they do, what his character is actually up to and doing, and his motivations are really interesting. And Denzel is just, you can tell he's just loving every moment on screen, being in this movie. And he is the reason why I'll go back and watch this movie just to see Denzel Washington and his performance. Connie Nielsen returns as Lucille, the mother of Lucius and the sister of Commodus from the original. And I thought Connie Nielsen was just going to have, she's just going to show up here, show up there. Maybe only 2 or 3 scenes. Like, hey, here's a familiar face. Actually, Connie Nielsen is in the whole movie. And she plays a major part in this film that I was actually pleasantly surprised by, but also enjoyed having more of that connection from the original. Since we don't have too many actors or characters from the original in this movie, which also doesn't make quite sense, because this movie takes place only 15 years after the original in the movie, in the context of the film. Obviously not in real life, because it's been over 24 years. I'm still surprised they didn't bring back Javon Hansu in here. This is only 15 years later. But I thought Connie Nielsen did an excellent job returning here. She really added to the film by being that constant, consistent character from the original. The action, you know what? I thought the action was good. I'm not saying it's on the same level as the first Gladiator. Don't go there with me on that one. But the opening battle I thought was good. I thought some of the stuff in the arena was fun and action-packed. You know? So, yeah, I enjoyed the action. Is it on the same level as the first one? No. But that's a whole other thing where we can get into. They don't have that much of a variety of it, what we see in the Coliseum. Yeah, we have, you know, two people fighting at once. We have the sharks. We have the monkeys. This is all in the trailer. So. But I think unlike the first one where you did have more variation in the Coliseum. You had the chariot, the first one. You had the tigers and the man and the tiger in the second battle. You had Commodus fighting Maximus one-on-one. But I still enjoy the action in here. I like the character motivations. I like the double crossing and stuff. The acting was really well done for the most part. I don't get into that. So, overall, in terms of my positives, this is a movie I was entertained by. This is a movie that I will probably go back and watch at some point when it is released on something. Just to get back. And I also enjoyed that getting into the world again. Go back to Rome, the Colosseum. You know, there's a lot of practical, yes, there is a lot of CGI with the animals, but there's also a lot of practical sets that were built. A lot of the audience in the Colosseum are actual extras, real people. They're not CGI dummies just to fill up the arena, fill up the stadium. You know, it feels like they went back to as much practical as they could. Now, like I said, with the animals, the rhino, that was the other thing, the rhino sequence, the monkey sequence, the shark sequence. Yes, that's CGI. Now, could they have gotten a real rhino? Yeah. Could they have gotten real monkeys? Yeah. I mean, they had real tigers in the original, but now let's get into my negatives. Paul Mescal, our Lucius, the young boy who grows up from the first Gladiator, Lucille's son, Commodus' nephew, and as we find out in this movie, actually Maximus' son. Now, I don't know Paul Mescal. This is my first time seeing Paul Mescal in a film, which is also great because, like I said, when I saw the first Gladiator, it was the first time I saw Russell Crowe. That's great. So I'm not watching someone I've seen 8 billion times. Unlike Denzel or unlike Pedro Pascal, where I think that's where it helps and it hurts the movie where, like the original, when I saw the original for the first time, I did not ever see Russell Crowe in a movie. I had not seen Connie Nielsen in a movie. I had not seen Joaquin Phoenix in a movie. I had not seen Richard Harris in a movie before Harry Potter. So, all of those actors to me were nobodies. And they became those characters because I've never seen them in anything else. Paul Mescal has that, and I've never seen him in anything. But the problem with Paul Mescal's performance is the writing. Once they decided that Paul Mescal's character Lucius is actually going to be the son of Maximus, they said, okay, let's just give him the same storyline or the same story character meets as Maximus. We're going to start out with him in a battle. Even though he's not the general, he's just a soldier. We're going to see his wife get killed. Okay? He's going to then get picked up and be a slave. Okay? He's going to connect with Denzel Washington, who's like this one's Proximo. He's going to get thrown into Gladiator games. Okay? While in the arena, someone's going to recognize him. Probably his mother. Just like Lucille recognized Maximus, even when he had the helmet on. She just knew right away. I don't know why, I know you. And then we're going to have gladiator fights. But in between all that, we are really not going to do anything to make this character his own. He doesn't get to have the camaraderie with like a Jamon Hansu or the Germanian. He doesn't have those moments of character moments. Not the ones that move the plot forward, but the ones that are just character. Take their time. Quiet moments. The original had the action, but the one thing it benefited from was the character of Maximus, showing him as just a human being. Yes, he was a general. He's a badass in the arena. But as a character, who is he as a human being? That's what people got behind. Because we have so many great moments in that original where we see Maximus just as a person. Whether it is when young little Lucius comes and he says, "You." You see Maximus walk up to the gate and the little boy points to the horses. "Are those your horses?" They were stolen from me. This is our Jojo, and this is, I don't fucking remember. And then the little boy says, they say you can crush a man's skull with one hand. And what does Maximus say? Not a man's, but a boy's. And he just smiles, gives him a little smirk. That's a human moment. It's funny, but it also gives you that character moment. And now looking back on that scene, it's now looked at as a father and son moment, which almost makes it even more powerful now. And then you have the other scene later on, after it is revealed in the arena, this guy is actually Maximus. Then, what happens? Maximus goes to get, the guy calls him Spaniard. He goes up, gets his food, the bowl, comes back with his little friends, Jamon Hansu, and the Germanian, the big guy, Hulk, White Hulk, as I like to call him. And what happens? Jamon Hansu's like, don't eat that. They probably poisoned it. And what happens? The fucking White Hulk, Germanian guy, gets his food, puts it in the bowl. And then, Maximus starts laughing, Jamon Hansu starts laughing. That is a character moment, people. That is a moment that is character. And what that scene also does is it says everything about the people around Maximus. They will die for him. This guy was going to eat the soup, or whatever it was, even if it was poisoned, just to make sure that it wasn't, but it could have been, and he was going to die for Maximus. That's character. We don't get that in this movie. We don't get those scenes with Paul Mescal having his own Jamon Hansu, or the Germanian. In fact, this is where I would say you fucked up. You could have had Jamon Hansu be the Proximo of this movie. And him knowing Maximus so well, he should have been teaching the young Lucius, who, as we find out, is Maximus' son, some real life lessons. This Lucius is trying to be Maximus by, the speeches, how he fights in the arena, going down and grabbing the sand, rubbing it on the sand. And then, yeah, you're trying to act like Maximus, but you still don't have any of your own character. Who are you? And the other thing that makes me a little bit pissed off is Ridley Scott said he wanted, it's like once they said, okay, he's going to be Maximus' son. Now we need to find an actor out there that looks like Russell Crowe. And here's my problem with that. Spencer Trait Clark played the original Lucius in the original Gladiator. He was also in that same year of 2000, he was in this little movie called Unbreakable, playing Bruce Willis' son. That kid had a very good year in 2000. Two of my favorite movies in the same year, Gladiator and Unbreakable. 19 years later, we get Glass, the M. Night Shyamalan film. Bruce Willis returned, Samuel L. Jackson returned, and they even brought back the kid who played Bruce Willis' son, Spencer Trait Clark, and he was in Glass. So and he is still an actor today. I'm not saying he's a great actor. I'm not saying he's even a B-level actor. But I'm not saying that he couldn't have because he's already worked with Ridley Scott. He's already worked with Connie Nielsen. And if you did bring back Jamon Hansu, you could have had it would have been another familiar person who has literally grown up and is now that same character. And guess what? There's no reason that he has to look like Russell Crowe. There are people in this world that their kids don't look like either parent at all. There are kids that only look like one parent, maybe the father, or maybe the mother. There's nothing to say that Spencer Trait Clark doesn't look like Connie Nielsen, the mother. And then you could have bulked him up a little bit, give him a little bit of a facial hair, to at least resemble a little bit of Russell Crowe. You went out and got an actor that looked more like Russell Crowe, and it felt like that's all you were looking for. And like I said, the character should have gotten the character treatment that Pedro Pascal gets. What Pedro Pascal character does and is in the movie is 100% what Lucius should have gotten. It would have been a richer character, a more complex character, a more gratifying character in his overall destination. It would have made sense for the story, and it would have made sense for the last movie. But this character of Lucius, you just say, okay, you're Maximus 2.0. The opening credits, I know this might be a weird one. I don't know why they rehashed the original movie in the opening credits in like an oil painting type of way. I didn't know this was a comic book movie. And I say that because Spider-Man 2, with Tobey Maguire, had the comic book panel out for us, paintings, giving you like, this is here's a refresher of what happened in the last movie. I say that because this is the same director, Ridley Scott, who says comic book movies are garbage. But you just literally did what they do in comic book movies in your movie. And why do we need a rehash of the original in the opening credits? The editing is another thing. There is so much in this movie, so many times in this movie, that we have a scene, and then it just jumps to another scene. And it's like the logic, how do we get from there to there? You know, or like, going back and watching the original, every time there's a Colosseum scene, it takes its time. Each scene in the Colosseum is pretty long when you go back and watch the movie. That's because they take their time. They build that suspense. You know, Maximus walking out of the hall or whatever to get into the Colosseum. It takes its time. Bringing out the villain or whoever the opponent is takes their time. You know, the matches take their time. They're not rushed. In this one, I feel like the editing, everything was rushed. We get no suspense in any of the Colosseum fights. The only one we get one is at the very end. And I won't spoil it. That's the only time in the whole movie that I was actually on the edge a little bit like, oh shit. Oh shit. Oh, there's another Lucius thing I don't understand. So we are here to believe that Lucius, who in the original movie was about 8 or 9 years old, let's say 9. You know, Maximus said, Lucius, he's nearly 8 or 9. And Maximus says, no, my son is nearly 8. You know? So I'm going to say 8 or 9. 8 or 9. Let's go with that. So you're telling me a 9-year-old doesn't remember when he grows up his mother, his uncle, Commodus, or Maximus, or his grandfather, Marcus Aurelius, or any of the events that happened in the original movie. Mind you, this is only about 15 years after the original. In the movie timeline. Not in the real world. 15 years. And this kid doesn't remember his mother? How do you not remember Connie Nielsen? This kid doesn't remember his uncle, Commodus? This kid doesn't remember Maximus? The one he cheered in the Colosseum? The one who said, Maximus, the savior of Rome. This kid wasn't dropped on his head. This kid doesn't have amnesia. He was just sent away. Logically, he was sent away, but he doesn't remember anything. Why? Why? Who decided to write that? Oh yeah, we're going to have the Lucius character. He's basically going to be Maximus 2.0. Oh, and he doesn't remember anything. And he's going to be your main character? I feel like Morgan Freeman in The Dark Knight. And you think people are going to gravitate to that character? Good luck. I just don't understand the whole writing on the Lucius character, from the casting to the writing. I don't know if I should blame Paul Mescal or should I blame the writers. I mean, yeah, I'm going to blame the writers because Out of all the characters in the movie, your main character is the weakness. And he didn't have to be. It's like that he gave the character description and development of Pedro Pascal's character and gave it to Lucius, you would have had a very compelling character. You would have had a character that was his own. Yes, you still might have had a few familiar beats that was like Maximus. That's fine. Maybe being like the father, or being related to him, you know, like father, like son. Okay, you can play with that a little bit, but you're missing out on what a very interesting and compelling character you wrote for one character as more of a supporting character, but not for your main character. Overall, I would still give this though a 4 out of 5. I was still entertained. Like I think Denzel and Pedro Pascal, some of the action, and there is some humor in the movie. It's just, you know, I think a lot of it is the Lucius character and the editing where it rushes a lot of stuff. I think it could have been better. But like I said, I was still entertained. But does it reach the heights of Gladiator? This movie was never going to reach the heights of Gladiator. Gladiator, like I said, is one of the best movies ever made. You can't top that. If you did, that would have been a miracle. So let me know in the comments below, are you a fan of Gladiator 2? Were you entertained? Are you entertained? Are you not entertained? Isn't that the reason why you're here? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Matt the Matt.